Today, I want to look at some survival lessons from the Great Depression. Hey everyone, welcome to Homestead Corner. I'm Jenny, and today I wanted to talk about some survival lessons from the Great Depression. The Great Depression definitely taught us a lot of things, how to do things simply, really, in for just about nothing, how to reuse things, how to do all sorts of stuff. And I think those lessons are so important to people that are wanting to prepare. We can definitely, in a long-term situation, in an all-out collapse or a long-term grid down situation, we can all definitely benefit from these skills. And skills are one of those things that I think are the most important prep that you can have, because they don't cost anything. And if your supplies run out, you'll be able to do all these things without worrying about having supplies. You can definitely learn how to do these skills for absolutely free. Most of them are extremely simple. With just a little bit of practice, you can be able to do the things your family needs, whether you can purchase it or not. And if it's an all-out collapse or even just this economy, it is very difficult to make ends meet. The more we do for ourselves, the better off we're going to be, and our families. So let's jump in and check out some of these lessons the Great Depression taught us. So one of the things we hear the most about during the Great Depression is growing their own food. And yes, they all had gardens, as many people that could put a garden in did. If they had just a little teeny piece of land, they would get a garden in so they could grow as much fruits and vegetables that they could, raise livestock, anything like that. We want to be able to do that. And even today, with limited properties and land and things like that, you can grow in containers. We really have figured out how to do all sorts of stuff, which is great over the years. And learning how to grow in containers, even growing a few herbs in the winter time or some lettuce or something in the window, is really quite easy to do. And it can save your family tons of money and provide food for you when you can't afford to get it or it's not available. The next thing that they did a lot of in the Depression was buy generic. We do not have to have name brand things, and there are a lot of generic brands that are just as good, and I think, as the name brands. I mean, I am pretty brand specific on certain items, but most of them, any brand will do. And buying what we can afford to make ends meet is definitely going to help us, especially in this economy. Another survival skill that they used in the Great Depression, which I am shocked more people don't do it now, is cooking from scratch. Cooking from scratch really is so much more inexpensive. Anytime you buy prepackaged food, you are paying for people to prepare it for you, and you don't need to. Cooking from scratch is really quite simple once you get the basics down and learning your seasonings and things like that, your herbs. You can really change up flavors of recipes and fix things exactly the way your family likes it, save a ton of money, and you clearly eat a lot better than when you're buying prepackaged foods. Another thing during the Great Depression was they made their own toiletries. That can save you a ton of money, especially if you're spending $10 or $15 on shampoo. You can make decent shampoo and hair care products, body products, any of your hygiene stuff really, really inexpensively. It feels like it costs a lot when you have to purchase the items up front, because you have way more than you're going to need initially, but those are going to last, and over time it is going to save you a ton of money. We have switched off a lot of products that we purchase, so we are able to make them on our own. And those, even those little things, even if it's only $1 here or $5 there or 50 cents, those add up to help us make ends meet in other ways. So I think learning to make your own hygiene products, cleaning products, anything like that that you can, they don't take a lot of time, and they do save a ton of money. And most of the time I find they work a lot better than the store bought chemical products. The next thing they did in the Great Depression was fix everything. If something broke, they fixed it, whether it was clothing or a chair leg, your plumbing, anything like that, anything that you can fix on your own. And I know the first thing we do when something breaks down is figure out how can we fix this before we replace it, because a lot of things can be fixed and it can save you a ton of money. Hiring someone to fix something for you is usually out of the question. It is way too expensive. So a lot of times we've become this throwaway society just to get rid of things and get a new one because it's cheaper than fixing it. But if you're doing the work yourself, you can definitely save tons of money and you don't have to replace things as often as you think you do. Another way that they survived was doing everything themselves. They were the jack of all trades, master of none, basically. But that's okay. You don't have to be a master at something. You can just learn the skill and get to a point that you're comfortable with it and you're happy with the results of it. Just work on those skills. And the do it yourself is a great way to go. How do I make this or this? Just learning those different skills and being creative, thinking outside the box can be really helpful. We use all kinds of things. We repurpose them for different sorts of stuff that you wouldn't think of. Coffee containers make great grain scoops. We also collect eggs in old coffee containers. There's so many different things you can use, and you can reuse, repurpose, and just do it yourself to make it a wonderful product that's going to work for you and doesn't really cost you anything if you've got the time to do it. Another thing that saved tons of money back during the Depression, there were not restaurants everywhere. There wasn't fast food everywhere. They ate at home. Eating at home, even today, saves so much money. I have gone out to eat recently, and holy mama, is it expensive. I cannot believe the prices of things at restaurants or how people can afford to eat out. All of those foods are so expensive, and you can make just as good a food at home, probably better, and definitely better for you, for way less money. It just takes a little bit of your time and you can make stuff up. A lot of times we will batch cook stuff. I'll make a huge double or triple serving and then we can freeze it or throw it in the fridge as leftovers, and that helps save us money as well. If I'm already cooking a chicken, why not throw 2 or 3 in there? Because that way I've got the chicken meat all cooked. We have one for dinner and the scraps will get turned into a soup, and the other chickens I may pick them apart and freeze them, and then we can pull out a portion at a time as we need it for whatever meal we decide to make. Another excellent survival skill that they used during the Great Depression was learning to conserve. A lot of us have become extremely wasteful because of the society that we live in. Everything is throwaway, and that is awful. But learning to conserve things, use a little bit less. We don't need to use 10 feet of toilet paper to wipe. We can use a normal amount. And I know a lot of places in different parts of the world, they'll measure out their toilet paper the length of their forearm, and that's how much they have. And just different things like that. Even though toilet paper doesn't appear to be ridiculously expensive, and everybody's got it in their home just about, but we want to learn to conserve those different things. If there's something that can be reused again, definitely reuse it. It's going to help you save money. Just because you used it one time doesn't mean it's all dried up and no good. There are lots of things that we can use and then maybe use for another purpose or reuse it again in the same way. However we can do that to conserve things can really help us save a ton of money, and in a survival situation that is going to be extremely important. Another skill, and I know this is hard for a lot of people, but it's living within your means. We need to live within our means. We are a huge debt society, and getting out of debt and making sure that we can survive with what we actually have for cash, actual money, not credit cards and loans and things like that. I mean, I do understand nobody has $500,000 hanging around to buy a house nowadays, but So that kind of thing is definitely a loan, but we don't need all those credit cards and all kinds of payments and stuff like that. So it's okay to shop at the thrift store. You can get really nice things at the thrift store. I always look for high-end brands and things like that, and I'm paying just about nothing for them. Just a couple dollars instead of, I have a pair of jeans that were $98 is the retail. I would never pay that. It just $5 at the thrift store, yeah, I'll pay that. Those jeans are going to last me for years, which is great. So making sure we're living within our means is really going to be helpful for all of us. We want to make sure that we can stretch that dollar as far as we can without going into debt, because that can be the downfall of many, many people. Another great survival skill from the Great Depression is canning, drying, and freezing your foods. Learning to preserve them in a way that you like them is wonderful. It is such a great way to save money. Even if you're not able to grow tons of food, a lot of times if you buy a large batch of something, let's say a bushel of carrots, you can take those carrots and can them, freeze them, dehydrate them, whatever it is that you like, and you can save a ton of money. When you buy in bulk, a lot of times you think, I don't need that much, but you are going to eat that much of it over a course of a year or 2 years, which when you're putting your food up and preserving it, that saves a ton of money. So the bigger you buy, a lot of times it's cheaper. So grabbing that when you can and preserving it for later really can be a huge thing. Canning is not difficult or hard. It's just a matter of getting over that fear and giving it a try. Once you get that food canned, don't be afraid to feed it to your family. I have seen that more times than I can even count. A lot of people, they want to learn how to can. They jump in, they start canning, and then they don't want to feed it to their family. Either they're afraid that it's going to make them sick, or they are afraid that it's going to not be on the shelf for later, or their shelves are pretty. I've heard that too. My food is too pretty on the shelves to eat it. No, your food is on the shelves to eat it. Don't, it's good if it's pretty, but it doesn't have to be. And, having that food for emergencies and preserving all that food is just so, so important. And the last thing as a survival skill from the Great Depression is being frugal and reusing. It is so important. Being frugal is definitely a big one for people to learn. I love to see how far I can stretch that dollar. And I use it as a challenge. How much can I get for a little bit of money? And when we're doing that, it helps us be able to prepare more, stay on track with our bills. It really is helpful for us in so many different ways. With the cost of everything now, it is so hard to keep up. And if you're not frugal, you're definitely going to struggle. And nobody wants to see that. We want everyone to be living comfortably. And being frugal isn't always bad. You can still do lots of frugal things and live a really good life by saving money. And I use it as a challenge all the time. How frugal can I be? I'm not splitting my toilet paper in half or anything, because that's a bit much for me. But not using 20 feet of it is also important for me. And that is it. There are so many different skills that they used and had during the Great Depression, which saved them. And it really was survival mode back then. People would forage and grow food and share food and, helping out our neighbors. Like we're seeing in North Carolina during the floods, people are just stepping up and helping each other. And that is how it should be in this country and everywhere, really, helping when you can, where you can. And just work on those skills. They don't cost any money. They can really save you in the long run, and they could save you a ton of money before that emergency happens during this ridiculous economy. So I know a lot of people are hopeful that things are going to turn around quickly, but I think we've still got, some rough roads ahead in the next couple years. So we need to be ready for that. And crazy things can happen at any time, whether we expect them or not. And usually the hardest ones are when we're not expecting them. So let's get ready and be prepared. When something happens, we can take care of our families and have what we need. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.